Hey everybody, welcome to episode 51 of Making It. I'm Bob Clagett here with Jimmy Diresta.
Hello.
And David Picciuto.
Hello.
Oh, I was thinking I should have done it this time, but I was thinking about doing like an opening with a full-on radio voice.
Oh, yeah, let's hear your radio voice.
And pretend like we were going to start doing it like that way from now on. Like, hey everybody, welcome to episode 51 of Making It. I'm Bob Clagett here with Jimmy Diresta.
Hello.
And David Picciuto.
I'm out of here.
Yeah, see, I don't think it would work for long.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Anyway, yeah, I grew up doing a bunch of different voices. That was like, that was the thing. Like, I was the youngest kid. I would always come in at, family gatherings and everybody like, yeah, hey, do the voice, do Pee Wee Herman, or do, whatever.
10th caller wins Drake tickets tonight.
Yes, and David's buying them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Shoot.
No, so yeah, episode 51. We made it past 50.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Should probably wrap up.
Does that mean we're done after this? We can finish?
I think so. Yeah.
That's it.
Let's
knowing everybody
out there. Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
We have run out of topics.
Pretty much.
It ain't easy. It ain't easy to keep the conversation going. But, when we think about what we do on a day-to-day basis, there's always something to talk about.
Yeah.
It's no different than being in a relationship, right? I really have nothing else to tell Kelly, so I just keep telling her the same things I've been telling her the last 5 years.
That's awesome.
That's a good point.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Well, before we go in, I want to, as always, thank our Patreon supporters, especially Nicholas Gomez, Luis Gonzalez, Chris Kopp, and Jeremy White. Really appreciative for those guys and everybody else there. Their support is awesome.
Thank you.
If you guys want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/makingit. Should do that in my voice. Patreon.com/makingit. There you go.
Are you making money with your voiceover yet?
I am not.
Have you tried? You should.
I have not. I don't have time to do anything else.
Well, if you did, that would be the easiest thing for you to do as far as time and money.
Yeah, maybe.
I know somebody here in the city who is my friend's boyfriend, and he's a local voiceover guy, and he's just every day he's like in shorts and a t-shirt as if like he has absolutely not a care in the world because he makes a ton of money just doing voiceover stuff.
Well, give him my email address. What are you doing? Why are you putting it on me? You know the guy.
They're very possessive about their contacts and stuff, especially guys that are successful at it. Like him, like I said, he lives in Tribeca. He doesn't seem to have a care in the world. And I hear his voice from time to time on the radio. I'm like, oh, that's that dude.
It is something I've always wanted to do. Because, like I said, I did grow up doing voices and stuff. I always wanted to do cartoon work or something like that. I thought that'd
Plus,
be fun,
you know what you're really good at, which obviously doesn't really matter in the days of editing, but I could see you. I watch you do a video, and you take one long take of conversation. Me, I'm like, the doorbell rings. I lose my train of thought. I got to look at the notes. You talk for like 4 solid minutes, and you absolutely hit every point without an and an ah.
I think maybe I'm just better at editing than you realize.
No, because it's all jump cut, same take, like a Woody Allen take. It's just one long take. I'm looking for the jump cuts in between the ums and the ahs, but there aren't any.
That's because I cut them out. That's because I said the same thing like 10 times in a row, and then one of them was good, and I got rid of all the other ones and just
That's
Bob, do you have notes in front
of?
In front of yourself when you're doing voiceover work and talking to camera?
No.
So I have to, because I'll try to, it's like, okay, I'm going to talk about these 3 things, and then I always forget number 3. So I have my iPad hanging from the ceiling right above the camera lens, and it has my notes on there, and I can.
You know how bad and forgetful I am. I'll make a list for myself. I'll hang it up. I'll do the thing. I'll publish it, and then 3 days later, I'll be like, oh my god, I completely forgot like point 4 and 5 that were in my head that didn't make it to the note.
We're like, what's that list hanging on the wall? Oh, I forgot to use that list.
That's another thing I do. I write lists all the time, and I don't look at them.
I do occasionally make, so the video I'm putting out tomorrow is a programming, it's like an intro to programming kind of video. And I did make an outline for that just so I wouldn't miss my points. But, I don't ever write out what I'm actually going to say. Because I think that, for me, that messes me up to think about that far ahead of time. Then I'm like trying to match what I actually wrote down. And it sounds all robotic for me.
I do not write word for word what I'm going to say. I'll have bullet points, but I do in my older videos. I sound robotic. It sounds like I'm reading, and I think it's just like a learned thing that you correct over time. Yeah,
I mean, you learn where to put like inflection into things to make it sound more natural and stuff. But or like in my case, when I am saying something and I say it 10 times in a row because I've messed up a word or something, by the time I get to the 10th time, it's like I don't have to think about it anymore. And it sounds more natural because I've said it a bunch. So
I always find when I do a voiceover, I always notice like my first few sentences or the first couple minutes, I'm faster. And then I've by the end of the video, I've slowed down and I got a little bit more calm. So maybe over the last 2-3 months, I've kind of gone back and then redid the first half of the video again when I'm doing like voiceovers post video, because for whatever reason, I'm just rushing through it too quick, or I'm just not comfortable yet.
Do you ever find any difference when you do that? Do you ever find any difference getting your voice to match between those two different days of recording?
Totally.
I don't think it's something I've worried about too much.
You said you do, Jimmy?
Yeah, my voice sounds different. If I'm doing a voiceover and then the dog barks, I have to cut it right there and then do the second half of the voiceover. It sounds totally different.
Yeah.
I have a problem with that. I mean, case in point, I listened to when I dropped the lathe off at my house upstate. I literally talk in the first few seconds and then the video cuts to me upstate. And right there, I had to stop and start again, literally minutes apart. And it sounds like I'm in a different room, a different house. And I tried my best to make them sound the same, and they sound like two different people talking.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I found recently I tried to, and this goes for shooting, like facing the camera stuff and doing voiceovers, but I found I tried to record something in the morning after I'd been up, I'd run, I'd showered, I'd had coffee. I was awake, Then I recorded something, and at the time, it felt fine. And then later in the afternoon, I went to edit it, and I was like, I look like I just woke up, and I sound like I just woke up. I can't use that. And so now I've gotten into the habit of I will do all the stuff that's like non-recording in the mornings, so that after lunch is when I try to actually do speaking stuff, like to the camera, so that I know that I look awake and I sound awake.
Oh my goodness. My last 2 videos, they're Q&A videos on my YouTube channel. I did them early in the morning, and it sounds like I did them early in the morning. I look tired or I look wasted. I don't know. But I'm like, oh man, don't record in the mornings anymore. Or at least not first thing.
My problem is I record at 3 a.m. when I'm like talking like this, so I don't wake anybody else up while I'm doing my voiceover. And everyone sounds like, it's like you got your bedroom voice on, and they're right.
Yeah.
His after dark voice. Cool. What have you guys been up to? It's getting close to Christmas. Anything out of the ordinary schedule wise?
I am working on making clocks. Most of my family is getting clocks, so I just took some. I just bought a bunch of clocks on Amazon, and I'm gutting them. And I know you can buy clock kits, but you can't get like curved glass and stuff. So I'm just gutting all these clocks, and I used some maple veneer over some plywood, ran it through the laser engraver, and plopping it back in, and that's what everybody's getting for Christmas.
Sweet.
And then
that's cool. I saw that on your Instagram.
Yeah. And then still working on the basement. I was earlier today mudding and sanding the ceiling. I wasn't going to put a ceiling in the band room, and then I decided this needs a ceiling, so I did. That was awful. And you know what? I don't ever want to build walls again. If I'm ever in a position where I have to make new rooms, I'm going to pay somebody else to do it. It was not fun.
Oh, it's the worst. People say to me all the time, they're like, oh, you make stuff? I'm like, yeah. They're like, I'm redoing the bathroom in my apartment. Do you want to bid on it? And I was like, I make things. I don't build bathrooms. Would you like to redo my kitchen? I go, no, I don't do kitchens. Could you hang a door in my bedroom? I said, I don't do anything. They go, everything. I go, imagine the apartment is actually built by a guy who builds apartments. I said, after the apartment's done and all the doors and kitchens and everything else is in, I go, I make everything else. Furniture, shelves, all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So, but people call me all the time. The other day, my friend who knows me very well, he said, hey, I got the job to manage this reconstruction at a local bar, literally like it's on the next block from here. He goes, do you want a quote on the bathroom? I go, no. I go, when have you ever known me to build a bathroom? He's like, oh, I don't know. I just thought it was a good job for you. I'm like, no, I don't want to build a bathroom. It's a nightmare.
I mean, you could give a ridiculous quote.
But then I'm stuck. Even if they gave me $25,000 to do the bathroom, which is a little tiny bathroom in a crummy bar, I would regret every minute of it. I'd be like, oh my God, I wish I was making a movie right now.
You could make a movie of it.
You know what the movie would be? The movie would be me going back and forth to the plumbing store 40 times to find the right piece that goes between the fitting coming out of the wall and the sink that they picked online.
I think I have gone to Home Depot a minimum of 2 times a day for the past 7 days. It's just, I'm so sick of Home Depot right now. You know how if you have the Google app on your phone, it tries to predict where you're going or your time to home. Every time I get in my car now, anytime between like 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., it says, 11 minutes to Secor Road, where Home Depot is. It knows I go to Home Depot every day now.
You have a problem, David.
Yeah.
You know what? I just drove back from upstate just now. I literally got back like an hour ago from upstate because I had some other stuff to do. I'm going back tomorrow after my last day of school. But I hopped in the car and I didn't even touch the phone. I haven't touched it since the night before. And the phone says 2 hours and 40 minutes to 2nd Street. I'm like, how the hell does the phone know that's where I intend on going? How does it know I'm not going to the auto parts store? But the phone knew what I was thinking. I wasn't going to pick it up because I know that route. But the phone laid the route out for me. I didn't even do anything. I just got in the car. And as I'm in the car, it says, this is where you're going.
Tell the truth. You weren't going to pick it up because you were scared of it all of a sudden.
I was. I was like,
I'm not touching that thing. Are you crazy?
I don't know. It's just amazing to me how there's predictive technology.
Yeah, it is pretty wild. So what have you been doing? You've been working upstate?
Yeah, we went upstate for the weekend, and we're going to try and spend, through to the new year. But I have a couple things I have to do. So, of course, I'm doing the podcast now. But as soon as I'm done with you guys, I have to go to the shop and work on a few things. I'm working on a mirror for a local place just across the street. There's going to be a video of me making a round mirror, a simple mirror. And months ago, I made this video, and I just finished the edit last night upstate, so I'm going to post that in the next couple of days. I made this desk that goes on the back of a cargo bike, which is kind of odd. I didn't post any pictures of it or anything, so that's going to be a video that I finally put out, and I'll attach my friend. It's did it for a friend, so it's going to be associated with his website and everything. So you get to see. My friend is riding around the city with this bike desk interviewing people. It's kind of a variety bike show. So it's fun. So I just finished that edit. And then I'm working on another round of ice picks. And then yesterday, I was happy to say I went to in Albany, New York. See, I just went, that's what I do all the time. I got to learn how not to, I went to Harbor Freight and I spent $800 in Harbor Freight, and I was laughing because I remember early on in the podcast, I'm like, every time I go to Harbor Freight, it's $1,000. I just like fill the cart up. So I bought a bunch of stuff yesterday.
Did you get anything cool, or is it just like stuff?
No, I got lots of, because I'm trying to work upstate, and my shop in the city is so well established that I know where there's crazy glue. I know where there's this. There's like mixing sticks. There's so many little dumb things. I know where they are. And upstate, I go to turn, and I'm like, oh, and then it's a 25-mile ride to Home Depot. And so I went, I got like O-rings. I got all kinds of like little nuts and bolts. But while I was there, I also got, I have a buffing wheel upstate, and every time I put one of these ice picks to it, the buffing wheel slows down. So I was like, that is it. I'm getting a new buffing wheel. So I went and I bought the 6 and the 8-inch buffing wheel. The 8-inch buffing wheel is incredibly strong from Harbor Freight. It's like $80, so maybe like $110. And I recommend it. And it comes with a grinding wheel on one side and the buffer on the other. And I also bought the 12-inch disc sander, which I've been wanting to get. So I haven't even plugged it in yet. But so I bought the 3 machines, the 2 buffers and that. And then I bought a bunch of little hand tools, hand sanders, just stuff. I'm in the Harbor Freight, whatever, exclusive club, whatever it's called, the Inside Track Club. So I get a little bit of a discount. So it's actually, since I bought into I'm so forgetful. I bought into the thing, whatever, for $30, the Inside Track Club. And I never have the card with me. And they don't have the system whereas you could just give me your phone number and it's like you come up. You got to have the actual card because you're just a barcode. They don't have a name associated with it. And so every time I bought the thing, like 5 or 6 times I've been to Harbor Freight since then, I never had the card with me. So yesterday, knowing I was going to spend a lot of money, I brought it with me. So I got the discount I paid for you last year.
Nice.
But yeah, that's it. And just trying to do some last minute things by the end of the year. And excited.
Cool. Speaking of Harbor Freight, so in my videos, you've seen me welding on the ground. Mm-hmm. Which I know is not ideal. It's not the thing that you're supposed to do. But that's kind of the only option I've had. So the plan was for me to find a big sheet of steel that I could throw on top of my work table, use that as a welding table. And I still was thinking about that. Recently, somebody sent me a link to the Harbor Freight welding table. And it's a collapsible, I think it's maybe 2x3 or 2x2. But it folds up into a stand that, will slide in between 2 pieces of furniture. And so I got to looking at it because I'd never paid attention to it, and it was like $70 something. And then they have, right, this time of year, they have 25% off coupons like the entire time. And so I think I'm going to give that a shot so that I don't have to have another giant sheet of steel that I have to put somewhere, and I don't have to have, I don't have room to make another table. So this is something I can get that I can fold up and put away. So David, as you start welding more, which you should,
I have a table. I actually went to Harbor Freight to get that table, and I thought it seemed really flimsy. So I went back and I ordered one online, and I don't know what it is offhand, but I'll send you a link to the one I have, and I'll show you. It's put together. It's not collapsible, but it's sitting out in the garage waiting to be used. Actually, right now it's being used to hold a bunch of spray paint cans.
Nice. It's probably a cheaper way to do that.
Yeah, there probably is. I need to be more organized. That's all there is to it.
Well,
me too.
The collapsibility of it was something that I really needed. But that's interesting. Well, it's not surprising to hear that it's flimsy, but sad.
Well, I mean, go look for it for yourself and make that decision.
Because otherwise, I'm going to have to just order. It's weird. There's no place in town here to buy steel other than the big box stores.
There's no. Did you just Google like steel supplier, steel mill?
Yep, I have. There's nothing here, and it doesn't make any sense because there are fabricators here. There's a lot of people who build really interesting things here, and they have to get it brought in on a truck from Augusta or Jacksonville or these places that are a couple hours away, and they have to buy it in bulk. It's really strange to me. There's got to be something that I just can't find. But anyway, because of that, getting a big sheet of steel to use as just a tabletop that I can throw on is kind of a pain because then I have to pay for shipping on a single piece and, So I've looked at onlinemetals.com is apparently a good, cheaper place to buy different metals. And so I found a sheet there that'll probably work, but it's, shipping's $40. And anyway, that's one of the things I'm looking at is trying to get better welding set up for now. But as far as me, what I've been working on, not a whole lot. Well, a whole lot that is not going to be obvious for a while. Still working on the arcade, which the artwork is all printed. It's shipped. Should be here Thursday, which I'm really excited about. And then that will be able to move on. And working on a couple other things that are kind of longer term projects. So I'm not really sure that I'm going to put out a video next week. I might take it off. It's Christmas.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Weird for me. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I may come up with something to make a video of. But I've been out of town all weekend. We went to Florida to see my wife's family. Went to a wedding last night on a Monday night, which is really strange. And I'm sure you guys probably feel the same way. But are wedding receptions like the most uncomfortable thing in the world to you guys?
I hate them, and Taylor hates them so much. Taylor said, "I don't even want to go to my own wedding," she said to me. She goes, "Can we just get married somewhere and just have it be official, but absolutely tell nobody and not be involved with anything
That's what David
at
did.
all?" Yeah, I was like, "Yeah, sure." And my buddy Danny, who's going to hear this and he's going to freak out. He performs weddings, and he's been telling us when you guys are ready, just let me know. And she's like, "Can Danny come over to the apartment and do it and then be done with it?" I said, "Probably." But no, we both always say we always, every time we go to a wedding reception, we say, let's promise never to do this again.
Yeah, it's just so strange. I mean, I totally get it. As a married person, I totally understand why that's it can be an important point or a fun point in your life and a thing to do. But as somebody who has to go and wrestle 4 kids at a really loud, really far away thing, man. Whew. Anyway, I won't harp on that too much, but it was an interesting. But the good thing was I had to drive 4.5 hours to get back last night, so I had an excuse to leave. So I got back at 1:30, and got up this morning and went and saw Star Wars again.
Again. I was when you said before I'm at the movies, I'll be home soon. I'm like, I wonder if he said Star Wars.
Yes,
but I know he went Friday night. So
yeah, so the plan was for me to go to Florida this weekend and then come back and see it today with a couple of buddies of mine, and I was just so worried about somebody spoiling it in between. When it came out and today. It was 5 days, and all my friends are talking about it.
But wait, you did get to see it early, though, right? You said, I noticed on Twitter or something, you said you were
so before I left for Florida, I ended up, a friend of mine came over, sat with the kids while they were sleeping, and I went to the movie and got to see it, and then I went and saw it again today, and it was even better the second time. I mean, it's really fantastic.
You could have just brought your kid sleeping and just locked him in the car and then went into the movies. Nobody would have said anything.
Not really how that works.
That's the kind of, that'd be like front page news. Man locks family in car to go watch
Star Wars. Worst person in the world right here.
That's a total New York story. That would happen here in New York and Queens.
Oh, I don't doubt that it's happened somewhere, but it's not going to be me.
So the thing that intrigues me the most is that robot that has like the head that stays in place.
Yes.
And that thing really just rolls around. Does it, like, what if it rolls through like mud or poop or something? Does it get all stuck up under his hat?
I don't know. Probably. Under his hat.
Every single week.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, to be honest. It is an amazing thing to watch.
Because it's an amazing robot. I saw like Whoopi Goldberg was talking to it online somewhere, like in like a trailer.
Yeah.
No, she like it came out on The View or something, and there was a little like pre-roll on one of the videos, and it is an incredible robot.
Yeah, and it's like a practical, like a real thing.
Yeah, they had the real one, and this little I stopped to watch it.
So there's a guy I've talked about before, James Bruton, that does a YouTube channel called X Robots, and he makes these like cosplay costumes and robotic stuff. And he's on his second version of that robot. He's making his own from scratch.
Wow,
it's crazy. I mean, there's like inertial measurement stuff that's going on to keep the head balanced on top of the ball, and it's bizarre, but he's doing some really good stuff to, figure it out on his own and make it work. Pretty crazy. I would love to do that, but I'm not sure that I have the patience to dedicate to like such a long-term project. Because I mean, he works on those things for months at a time. In the videos, there's like, this is part 22 of the robot build, and
And how long has your arcade cabinet been going on?
But see, I didn't start on it that long ago.
Okay.
Conceptually,
watch it, David. Yeah, but it's so close. It's close.
I'm excited.
Me too.
Yeah.
I can't wait. So anyway, what are we going to talk about this week? We always love the suggestions, so if you guys have them, you can send them to @MakingItPodcast. But I think one of them was the roles our families play.
Yes.
So I don't remember the specific. Do you have the specific question in front of you?
Yes. This comes from Rich. The role your families play in shaping, supporting your maker journey. So, I mean, maybe this is a two-parter: childhood families and current household families.
For sure. Yeah.
But for me, in high school, I was allowed to take any shop classes that I want. So I took all the wood shop classes that I could. Growing up, I got to see my grandpa make stuff. He was a woodworker out in his garage, and it really didn't have those shop classes and seeing my grandpa make stuff didn't really have much of a influence on me until I hit like 35, and then I just wanted to start making things. And then so I would reflect back on high school and talk to my grandpa and visit him in his shop. And and then I guess the role Kelly plays is my wife. Is I wouldn't be able to do this without her, because she's the one that says, "Hey, quit your job and make silly videos for a living. I'll pay the house payment if I have to." and so here we are, and it's changed my life for the better, and I love it, and I can't wait for the podcast to get over with so I can go back down in the basement and make more things. So
fine, go. We can handle it without you.
Oh, this is fun too. This is fun.
When this subject came up, I thought right away about my brother Joey, who helped me early on. When I got out of school, my brother helped me. He was going through some change of life at the same time. He was finally deciding what he wanted to be at 26. I was 21, and he wanted to be with me in the toy business. And he realized inventing and coming up with ideas from week to week and trying to sell and market those ideas was really becoming his passion. And me being the idea guy and him being more of like a salesman, more of like a people person, wanting to meet people within companies, and me not necessarily being interested in that. Like, he remembers people's names and he remembers the names of their wives and their kids and stuff. Me, I'm just like, I don't even remember the guy's name because I'm like too busy just like being more interested in the shop stuff. So he sort of protected me early on when we first did our toy business stuff together. And he just said, I'm going to do this thing. You stay here in the shop. Or he would like introduce me to people if absolutely necessary, to kind of maintain a relationship. But he protected me from all the business stuff. And he said, there's no reason for you to know about insurance and rents and all that stuff. And he basically, for lack of a better term, coddled me and kept me alone in the shop and said, just keep coming up with ideas and just keep learning how to do stuff. And so from about 90 to like 90, 99, 2000, I just focused on making stuff and learning how to make stuff and inventing things. And that was a lot of my toy business experience right there and then. And Joey handled all the other stuff that he actually enjoyed handling, along with inventing. We did a lot of brainstorming together. And so I commend my brother with that. And now fast forward to my time now with Joey got married, moved into New Jersey, and our businesses kind of started taking two different directions. I started getting involved with TV, and he got hired by a company in Pittsburgh. So he's been in Pittsburgh for the last several years. He works in Pittsburgh a few days a week and works in New Jersey. So he goes back and forth. But now I see Taylor in the same position that I was in. And I don't want to see Taylor take a regular job. And that's what Joey always said to me, because I don't want to see you take a regular job because you're not the type of person that belongs in a regular job. I want to see you just keep nurturing this sort of entrepreneurial spirit that the two of us together were exploring. And so I'm doing the same thing now with Taylor. She from time to time says, should I get a regular job? And I say, no, as long as we could afford to do this, there's no reason for you to get a regular job. Your talents are better suited to just experimenting in the shop and developing your furniture line and experimenting with making new fashion items. She's doing a lot of fashion items as far as like home accessories. So she's experimenting, learning how to use the lathe. She's been lathing brass and doing really cool stuff. And I'd rather see her do that than be at a job and, just trying to keep her. She definitely brings money in with her furniture line, but she doesn't have like a 9 to 5. And from time to time, she feels a little guilty about that. And I said, don't feel guilty about it because you're a maker and you could basically do whatever you want as long as you focus on it. And so, like I said, I'm just trying to nurture her spirit, her maker spirit. So, and then of course she nurtures mine as well. She'll show me things and say, look at this. This is the type of thing you should be doing. And I'm like, oh wow, that is pretty cool. She's much more exploratory when it comes to looking at other designers. I just look down at my hands constantly and she'll grab my head and point it in a new direction every couple of days. And, so that's definitely how she helps me out for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah. My wife is kind of the same way. Like she's really good. She can make a lot of things. She doesn't have the time to make a lot of things because she's taking care of our kids and, does roller derby and stuff. But she has a history of, making jewelry and building sets when she was growing up and all this different stuff. But she's really fantastic at coming up with ideas that like cover the full spectrum of reasonable to totally unreasonable. And then she'll give me those ideas and I can usually pull something either directly out of them or it inspires me to, go a different direction. Like she, over the years I've been in different bands and she's come up with the names for the bands and for the albums. She's named video games that I've developed with friends of mine. She's just really good at brainstorming stuff, which is a huge help for me because kind of like you were saying, you're looking at your hands. I get in that cycle where I'm just like, I go like spiral in to the thing that I know, I don't look for outside input often, which can be really bad. But as far as growing up, my dad always made stuff in the shop. He was a dentist, but just constantly was making, stuff for the house and just, I don't know, he's always in the shop. And then my grandfather, his dad was kind of the exact same way. He's a sculptor. We've talked about him before. He's like a carver and a painter and makes model airplanes and just all sorts of stuff. My other grandfather was a contractor and built McDonald's buildings and a bunch of other stuff. But that was the thing that I really remember is like he built McDonald's all around. And so, he always had a shop full of tools, big pickup truck full of tools. And so I was always around those. But one of the things that really, and those were like the situations that I saw. But my parents, I think, did a really interesting thing to help me have the freedom to make stuff and not feel worried about it, like worried about whether it was good or not, or whether I should or shouldn't be. So I have an older brother and sister, 5 and 7 years older than me. So they went through their teenage years before I got to the teenage stuff. And my sister told me one time that when I was like 12 or 13, they sat my brother and sister down and said, okay, what did we do wrong with you guys? Like, tell us what we should not do with him, which is amazing. I mean, that speaks to how awesome my parents are.
That's
who
incredible.
listen to this podcast, by the way, so they can tell me if that's true or not. But anyway, so and my sister said something to the effect of like, back off, give him some space because he's a kid. And so they did, and they gave me the freedom to, like, our basement was pretty much whatever I wanted it to be. And, I never had a curfew. As long as they knew where I was, they knew I was a good kid. I didn't, like, they weren't overbearing like I see myself being as a parent. And so my basement was, within a couple of year spans, I built a huge quarter pipe skateboard ramp inside my basement that turned out it was too big to get out of the door of the basement. I had a climbing wall that then later on turned into a stage. I used to have band practices, and we actually had a show in my basement with like 90 people when I was a senior in high school. I mean, they let me paint like a huge mural on one wall, and I had like a little area that had like computers and stuff. Like, I think I talked about my bat cave before when I was a kid. I had this like play bat cave down there. And they just let me do whatever I wanted to in there. And they didn't ever make me feel bad about like wanting to take electronics apart or, just scavenge pieces of wood from construction sites and from the dump piles and build stuff out of them. And so that was always pretty amazing. Like, they give me a lot of freedom there.
That's exactly what my dad did, by the way. A lot of people say to me, how did you end up where you did? What can I do with my kids? I said, well, what my dad did was he just put tools in my hands. He wasn't overbearing. He didn't worry about if I got hurt. And I did. I got hurt all the time. But I remember cutting my thumb right down the middle on the jigsaw, and he just laughed. He goes, ha. He goes, get used to it. He was like, he wasn't even like, he didn't baby
Dad.
Me. I remember working with him, and there'd be blood all over all the wood or whatever. He's like, oh yeah, I cut my thumb with a razor blade. And like, he wouldn't, to him, getting injured was not a showstopper.
Right.
And so I mean, I definitely adapted that personality from him. But as a kid, my dad put tools in the hands of all of us, including my sister. When he saw that my younger sister, my sister's 4 years younger than me, and she's Kathleen Diresta. She's a platinum jewelry designer and gold and silver. And she sets diamonds and she makes jewelry for mostly wedding bands and stuff. But early on, when my dad started noticing her, he was constantly giving her tools and putting tools in her hands as well. And I told this story early on. My dad bought me my first set of chisels, and I was so intimidated by them. I didn't touch them for nearly 10 years. He got it for me when I was like 12 or 13 years old. I didn't touch them until I was like, until I was an older teenager, maybe 18, 19 really is when I first started playing with them. But they were these like gorgeous chisels with like, all probably really I still have them. Those are my set of chisels that are in my toolbox. They're all vintage, really old. So all my guitars I've carved with them. And but he saw in me, what I hadn't seen yet. So I definitely credit my dad with my early start for sure. And then one funny story. I've said it a few times. I don't know if I've ever said it here. I did the MakerCast podcast. So my story is up on that now. We published it a couple of weeks ago, and I talk about my early beginnings and my high school time. But in elementary school, my dad encouraged me and my brothers to go collect names, and we would cut names out on the jigsaw. And my dad would hand draw all the names. So we'd come back with like a little list of, say, 10 names, and my dad would hand draw them on stock, drill holes in the middle of the any letter, like the B's and the O's. All the letters were hand bubble letters, and me and my brothers would jigsaw them out. And my dad would burn them. We'd brush them with a wire brush, then varnish them, and then we'd bring them back to school for money. So we had these custom. My dad it wasn't our idea. It was my dad's idea. He's like, go collect names and we'll make signs for the kids at school. So it's funny. And every once in a long while, like an old friend from my hometown will send me a picture of one of those things that I made like in the 1970s. They're like, look what my mom found in my room.
That's awesome.
And it'll say like Jim or Joe or, just whatever that kid's name is. Bubble letters that my dad hand drew that me and my brother John cut out. When I was in 1977, I was 10 years old. So that was about when we started doing that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So my dad was definitely, the early beginnings for me.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think about being the other side of that, right? I want to be that for my kids, and I want to invest those same ideas into them, get their ideas flowing and give them freedom to do that. But I'm also finding now that they're getting a little bit older, they're actually doing the same thing for me, which is kind of weird. But I have this thing written down in Evernote because I always want to go back and be reminded of it. My son Hawk is 5, and they all know that I make stuff. They all, have asked me to make different things. And my older kids, the 2 older ones, usually ask me to make something that's reasonable. It's like, hey, can you make me a wooden sword so I can play pirates or whatever, And Hawk is at the age where he doesn't have any idea what's reasonable or not. And that's actually turned out to be kind of cool a few times. So one time he asked me, and he was dead serious, if I would make him some rocket boots. He's like, can you make rocket boots for me so that I can fly? And like, you could have fire come out of the back of them, and then I could fly around in the room. And I started kind of giggling, and then I looked at him, and he was dead serious. And he had no reason to believe that I would not be able to do that.
I can make those.
Yeah, I'll take a size 10.5, please.
Okay. But the thing that got me about that was just that, like, I put a lot of limits on what I even attempt because I know, like, okay, here are my boundaries, and like, he doesn't have that. And that's awesome that kids don't have that. And I should try really hard not to have that myself, and just think, like, what's the most ridiculous thing? And like, don't make stuff once I hit the walls. Once I realize, yes, I can't actually make rocket boots, but I should at least try, I should, I should head that direction. Yeah. But so it's cool that my kids are actually pushing me to be more creative and be more like them, like the way that they think now.
Yeah, I mean, we were all creative as kids, and some people just lose that. I think it's a muscle that you just have to keep using over and over again. And I hear people all the time say, I'm just not a creative person, and I just don't think they're trying. I think there's creativity in everybody. You just have to learn to experiment and be open to it.
Well, I think a lot of that too comes down to like how people define creativity. Like, some people think of, if you say do something creative, they're thinking, well, it has to be artistic, like visually artistic, or it has to be whatever. They just have a really clear, defined version of what they think something creative is. But it's really just, it's problem solving in a way that, is unique to you. And so maybe that's writing code. Maybe you come up with you can have creative code. It's a way to use the tools that you have in a way that's not normal, or, so when it comes to being creative, it's probably far less about the method and more about just, coming up with a way to use what you have in a way that's different than the norm.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people, when you ask them to be creative, they get intimidated. They think they have to hit the ball out of the park. And that's one thing I try and tell my students all the time. It's like, just, you've never, if you're doing something you've never done before, you need to at least get your feet wet. So you don't put that pressure on yourself. Just start jotting down ideas, or just jump into it, and don't worry about hitting that grand slam. You have to build up to that.
You guys got anything else about our families and how any other cool stories or anything?
Just like I said, I just think it's important just to, if you're around someone that's creative, or someone that's, like we all make our living doing this. And I have to, maybe, I don't know why I have this mentality. I guess, at the same time, my dad always thought that we should all be civil servants, even though he totally encouraged me to be creative. And then when I got time to become like part of the workforce, he's like, oh, you should be a cop. You should be a fireman. I'm like, but wait a minute. You just spent the last 10 years making me creative. Yeah, but if you could be creative and you could also be a cop. I'm like, not in my world. I'm going to be creative. I'm not going to be a cop. And he really pushed me. My brother fell for it. My brother became a cop for 15 years. And I know he was miserable. So, I mean, my dad is a dreamer in a way, and he's very curious, but he was also very, very safe in the way that he had to be a civil servant himself. He was a New York City fireman. So he pushed that on me. But I just think it's important that if you see somebody that's creative, you just nurture it, and don't nurture it and see where it goes. And when somebody becomes of a certain age that it's time for them to develop a career, see if you can help them develop that career that's creative. Don't just give them a left turn and say, oh, this is really nice. It was really great that you did these for the last 12 years. Now do this because this is a safer route. In this world, I guess the world we live in now is very different than the world that my dad saw when I was 15 years old. There's so much more opportunity now, as far as we were talking about how we're making income on YouTube before the show started. And we're talking, there's so many more opportunities now. A kid could start a really cool Instagram and then become an influencer. And then all of a sudden he's getting paid by somebody to put one picture up. And that's before he's even going to college. So it's such a different world now, and there's so many different ways of making money in a fun, creative, quote unquote, not a real job situation. So I think parents need to just pay more attention to these different opportunities that kids are open to now, and nurture those bizarre income avenues, if it's possible.
So I'm not a parent, so I don't know how I would approach this, but to have kids involved in your life, you have to have you need to have them involved in what you're doing. Bob, what you do is you make things. How do you not push too hard to your kids? How do you draw that line?
Well, it's tough, and with the making stuff, there's like the safety issue, which I know is not a reason to keep them out of the shop or to stop them from doing that, but it is like it's a bump that I always consider. But that helps me, I think, not push too hard on them, because like I don't want them to be using tools unless they want to use tools, because if they don't want to, it's not going to be safe. It's not going to be good for anybody. So I try not to force that too much. But when I think about music specifically, I grew up being forced to play music take piano lessons until I was, 6th or 7th grade. And at that point, it just clicked. And all of a sudden, I loved playing piano and I wanted to play piano. But they forced me for like 6 or 7 years to get to that point. And I realized in hindsight that was a really good thing for me. It's something I would not have continued on my own because I was too worried about playing G.I. Joes and doing other stuff that wouldn't have been productive eventually. And they didn't force me to do everything, but that was one thing that they really, you're going to do this, right? And then the rest of my time was free to be whatever I wanted to be. And I'm really glad they did that. So I'm trying to do the same type of thing with my kids to find something that I think, and music is one of those things that I think can be really productive for a kid in the way that they learn and the discipline that comes along with it and stuff like that. So I'm trying to find a way to have one thing that I can force them to do to a point, but then the rest of the stuff, like they may like it, they may not. They may not want to make stuff. They may not want to play soccer. They may not want to do ballerina stuff or whatever. I want to give them those opportunities, but I don't want to force them to stay on all those paths and feel like they have to be able to do everything, because I see a lot of families where the kids are bound to so many different things. They have to be a sports person. They have to be really good in school. They have to do scouts, and they have to do this, and they have to do that. And that's putting a lot of pressure on kids who just really want to play all the time and need development outside of those things,
Yeah. I see my brother's son, my brother's son, he's about 12 years old. He's into MMA, mixed martial arts. And he's not a big kid, but my brother is big into that. My brother Joey, he's 53 years old, and he still practices and goes to the gym and does all this jiu-jitsu and all this stuff. And his son, I know for him, he would want nothing more than his son to be interested in it. But my brother's also of the practical mind where if he's not interested, he's not going to push the kid. And but to his credit, the kid is into it. My nephew Aiden, he's into it and he's learning, and he just keeps winning awards. And my brother's so proud of him. And he constantly says, "I'm not pushing him." He's like, "I'm not pushing him. He's doing it on his own." He goes, "But because everyone's like, oh, of course he's doing that because you do that all the time." And he's like, "No. He's doing it on his own. He wants to do it. He's learning more and more about it on his own." So I know my brother's proud of him for that.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, and I mean, it's easy to think like me as an adult, I do this thing that I really like, and I want to pass that on to my kid because I want them to enjoy it like I enjoy it. But then when I look at my kids, 4 kids have entirely different personalities. And so just because I like something, I can see this one would probably also like it too, because we share our personalities in this, in this one certain way. Whereas this next one, there's no way. My daughter doesn't care about, whatever the thing is. She doesn't care about it because she's into a totally different thing. She relates to the world around her in a very different way than I do. And so it makes a lot of sense to not try to force what you want and what you maybe think is best for them on all of them in the way that you think is best for them. Because they each have their own personality and they're going to react differently to different things. You're going to be able to, I think for me, I try to spend time figuring out who they are, where they fit, how they learn the best, and then try to find something that I can attach them to, that's going to foster that stuff. And that might be making things, but it might not, And so I have to be okay. As a parent, I have to be okay with that. Like, they may not carry on the stuff that I like. It's okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So here's a related question that came from Mark on Twitter. Gifts you would get kids these days to help them become makers. Anything comes to mind? I remember when I was a kid growing up, we had those like 101 electronic kits where you build a little AM and FM radio and you made a light blink and all that stuff. Times are a little bit different these days. Now, what do you get kids?
I'm going to say it before Bob.
Go for it.
Legos. I think Legos is still relevant. I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
They're still 100% relevant as far as kids' imagination and building blocks. And the more, as an adult, the more people I speak to, the more people I realize, and Bob, you're included in that, Legos, like Star Wars, has been a huge influence on so many makers. And I joke about Star Wars, but it's spawned hundreds of thousands of makers in this world. I mean, early on in my toy business career, so many of the guys I met that I became friends with that were amazing designers said, Legos and Star Wars, Legos and Star Wars. I mean, I hear it over and over again. So I say Legos.
I would totally agree with that. I think one of the reasons Lego has been around for so long and it has been in the place that it affected us all in that same way is because they're kind of expensive, but they're reasonably expensive, right? I mean, they're not inaccessible. There's a lot of things now that are really cool, but they're expensive. They're like Little Bits are a thing that, they've sponsored some of my videos, and I really legitimately do think they're an awesome thing and can be really cool for kids, but they're expensive.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things like that where this will teach them coding, this will teach them electronics, this will teach them how to do whatever. But, if they don't take to it, if 3 of my 4 kids are not interested and that's not the way they learn, I've dumped a whole lot of money into nothing. Legos are open-ended enough and inexpensive enough that they can be anything for anyone. And that's probably, a lot of the power there, I think.
Yeah. No, I from time to time, I'll go, if I'm in the toy store for one reason or another doing research, I always buy a little bag of Legos and play with them.
Yeah.
And they always end up finding their way to the big bag in the workshop. Just currently lost. I couldn't find them the other day.
I think, right along the lines of what Jimmy said, the classic Lego toys. I think classic like crayons, colored pencils, markers, paints, anything that allows kids to make something out of nothing and just encourage creativity is a good thing.
Yeah. I've gotten, obviously I'm trying to figure out things that my kids will gravitate towards. I'm trying to give them all the tools they can to make things. There's a lot of things that are out now, really clever ways to attach pieces of cardboard, like these little kits of like fasteners and stuff that people can use. But totally what you're saying, it always comes back to duct tape or it comes back to Scotch tape. And so we've got the boxes of these like clever fasteners. But my son Hawk that I was talking about before, I buy him Scotch tape. That's the thing that I buy him once a month or so. He has full access to our recycle bin where we don't put like metal or glass or anything in there. It's just all cardboard and paper. So he has full access to that. He has full access to tape and safety scissors. And that's what he does. He doesn't play with action figures. He doesn't play with dinosaurs. He makes stuff out of cardboard. And so just having access to things like that is, hugely powerful. So if anybody wants to get my son rolls of tape for Christmas, go for it.
You want to hear something funny? I'm sitting here giggling. Me and my brothers call my mother the Scotch tape bandit because everything in the house gets fixed with Scotch tape. Like the trim on the refrigerator, the mirror is loose. Everything has Scotch tape. And Scotch tape lasts for about 5 minutes and it splits right in the middle wherever it's supposed to be, like repairing 2 things together. So we always joke when we say the Scotch tape bandit strikes again.
Yeah, he's the same way. He's pretty sure that it can attach anything to anything forever. So, I'll see this like some really heavy book, and he's like, "Oh, I needed this as a backpack on this Chewbacca toy." So he's like wrapping the whole thing in Scotch tape, like it's going to hold it up. Yeah. But as far as like other stuff, for kids, last year we got, I think we might have even talked about it on the show, but I got my oldest son, who's now 8, his first toolbox. And it's just a red steel toolbox with some basic stuff in it, screwdrivers, adjustable wrench, things like that. And so I've got one. he got his last year. Our daughter's going to get hers this year. And then next year, the third, we'll get, we're going to give them out like that. So it's just a basic toolbox from Harbor Freight for a few dollars, fill it up with a few hand tools, and then give them a piece of old electronics to take apart. I mean, that's what, you give them an old VCR. You got to make sure they don't get in touch with the capacitors or anything like that can discharge and kill them. But other than that, give them something, like if you have an old tape recorder or like an old CD player, anything like that, you're not going to use. There's nothing dangerous in it. Give it to them and tell them to take it apart. I did that with my oldest, and I don't even remember what it was, but I said, here, take this apart. Unscrew every screw you can find. He's like, but I won't be able to put it back together. I was like, exactly. You're not going to be able to put it back together. It's not supposed to go back together. Break every part of it. It's okay. We're going to recycle it. We're going to get rid of it. Just enjoy. And he was like, had this look on his face like, I get to destroy something? He was so excited.
I think it was a VCR. We talked about that before, right?
Yeah, we might have. Yeah. But cool. It's a cool thing. I mean, and like I said earlier, that's my parents had a lot of that stuff. I don't know that they really wanted me to take them apart, but they didn't get mad at me when I did take them apart. And that was a big part of me exploring and like, how does the inside of a tape player work? Well, now I know because I took it apart and ruined it. But
all right. And then the last question from Twitter, this comes from Wood Seats. What would the three of you buy each other for Christmas? Both sensible and silly. So I'm going to go first.
Go for it.
And for Jimmy, this is the silly gift. I'm giving him access to get on a plane and bypass security. So you can take all your axes, all your ice picks, and you don't have to drive for 4 days across the country to meet up with us.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Is that a real thing? You could really do that?
I don't think so.
No. You could charter your own, I guess, right?
Oh, that's it. I'll charter me a flight.
And then for Bob, I would get Bob a bigger space to work in. You need more room, Bob.
I do.
Are we doing a round of crazy gifts?
Sure. Because I don't have a real gift idea yet. So.
Well, for you, I would buy you a whole new sewer system.
Oh, thank you.
And more headspace in your workshop.
Please. The scab is gone. You see that?
Yeah. And Bob, I would cover your carport and make it a workshop.
Thank you. That would be fantastic. You can, that's something you can actually do. So if you want to come down here, you can really do that. That would be a Christmas miracle.
Don't count it. I'm building my own garage first if I could ever get to it.
I was gonna say for Jimmy, it would be a new outlet next door for all the sewage that comes into his shop.
Oh yeah, let's just funnel it to my neighbor because I hate him. That's awesome. Thank you.
Okay, I'll give you the ability to funnel it wherever you like. I don't want to be responsible for that.
It'd be like a crazy straw. You can just.
By the way, I don't know who listens to this. If I have any neighbors, I was just totally joking. There really are no neighbors that I dislike. The pizza place is awesome. I love Rizzo's Pizza.
And then for David, I was going to say a bigger shop as well. Maybe just making your basement taller.
Yeah.
Headspace is great.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And as far as
and also for Jimmy, and this is maybe a real one. I would like to get you all of the Star Wars movies and the attention span to sit down and watch them and not fall asleep. So I know it's a big thing.
The abbreviated version, the trailer version of all. Can we string them together so it's 82 hours long?
Actually, there's a guy on YouTube that put all 6 of them over top of each other, and you can watch all 6 of them at the same time, and it will break your mind to try to watch that. It's hard. It really is hard to watch. That's so much visual stuff.
That reminds me, it's totally unrelated, but you know what that reminds me of? Do you guys remember the movie Timecode? Came out about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It was on video. Really started to become popular more as a tool in the movies. Somebody made a full movie of like maybe 90 minutes long, or maybe it's just short of 90 minutes, and it was 4 cameras filming 4 separate aspects. So when you watch the movie, you're looking at 4 quadrants, and it's one long take on 4 cameras, and people go in and out of the different cameras as the story developes and changes.
Yeah,
it's really crazy. It's a great concept. Yeah. That's Timecode. But if I was going to get you guys a real gift, I would get you guys carving chisels, like the ones I described that my dad would get me. So if you guys don't have carving chisels, buy them for yourselves and say they're from me. But I'm talking about like not just like dovetaily chisels. I'm talking about like scoops and gouges and that kind of stuff. So you could illustrate in wood, try and illustrate some low relief stuff, and then and that's definitely an exercise. I'm not as practiced as I should be. There was a time in my life where I carved all the time, and I haven't done it lately. And I keep thinking I want to do a video where I'm going to be carving, and I just have to come up with a good project. But I will do it eventually. I should do it more. But that's very liberating and extremely rewarding when you have like an image, you draw it, and then you carve all the background around it, and then give it some dimension. It's like a real. It's really rewarding to be able to get there.
A few months ago, I went to the carving museum here in Ohio, and while there, I bought a carving knife and haven't touched it yet.
Get to
Someday,
it.
get to it.
Carving it like a potato in the beginning, just to understand how to do it. So,
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Then cook it and eat it.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, for serious gifts, I mean, these aren't serious in that I could afford them, but get Jimmy a laser. Jimmy needs a laser.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Either that or like a CNC plasma. I could see you doing some insane stuff with a CNC plasma.
Oh, I can't wait to get one. I just need space. That's why both of those things that I would have bought myself by now if I had like a place to park them for a long time. If I get them now, I'm just going to have to move them again in a few months, and that's why I haven't done it.
Yeah. And for David, for the practical thing, the space and all the stuff you would need to paint. Like a painting studio, you could enjoy it and test it out and stuff.
Oh, very nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Oh, so serious gift. I guess I would, if I had piles of money, I would pour the foundation for Jimmy's new shop. Yeah.
Oh, we're going to do it in March, so make sure you get the check-in before then.
And then, Bob, I'd buy you a plane ticket to go visit that Jimmy's new workshop.
Nice. So. I'll take that.
Yeah. We could do a podcast from the cement slab.
Yeah.
Most echoey podcast ever.
No, there would just be noise above us. It would be the 18-wheelers nearby, the air brake on the way down the hill. That's all you'd hear.
Did you ever buy the what was the piece of machinery that you bid on that was near your house?
No, he never. It's so funny you guys ask. They never came back to me, but there's a running one for like $25,000, which I don't have the money for that right now. But there's the same piece of equipment by JCB, which is Joe's company that I made the sign for. Anyway, I just took pictures of it this morning. I was going to maybe talk to the owner about it, but like I said, he's asking $25,000, and it's a little too much for me right now. But that other one would have been a project. It would have been like more like Chevy type video project. Which, by the way, I have a couple Chevy videos I haven't published yet. I just got to tweak them. So my Chevy update videos.
Nice.
So no, I haven't heard from them. I don't know what's happening with that.
Gotcha. Well, have you guys been watching anything cool? I'm going to wrap up with that.
Yeah. It is. I've been watching The Joy of Painting by Bob Ross on Hulu.
Nice.
I lost my mind when I realized it was on Hulu. And only season 20 is on there. But if you have Hulu, do yourself a favor and watch it. It's so soothing. And Bob is just the most calm, nicest person you'll ever see on camera. And not a bad painter as well.
Is it true that he was like a Navy SEAL?
I have no idea. I
heard this crazy backstory that he was like pretty hardcore.
I'll tell you what you probably have. What is the comedian's name who died in a car accident, the big heavy guy in the 1990s? Sam Kinison. One of Sam Kinison's bits, and it got knocked off 100 ways, was he did that guy as if he was having like Vietnam flashbacks. Like he was being super calm, and then he goes from being super calm to being like completely crazy flashback mode, like running from bombs. So that might be what you remember.
Yeah, it could be.
Like, that's been mutated 3 times.
So for you listeners, it is your job this week to fact check and see if Bob Ross was a Navy SEAL.
In Vietnam.
Tweet us.
What about you, Jimmy?
You know who I've been watching? I'm obviously getting into the knife making game, and Walter Sorrells is a very, very skilled knife maker, and he shares all of his secrets on his YouTube channel, and it's amazing. And he's got a great speaking voice. It's like he could be doing commercials for any product that chooses him, but he's a skilled knife maker, and like I said, he's just so generous with the information. So if anybody's interested in making knives, and he's not pretentious, and he's not, he doesn't, a lot of these knife makers are very this is the only way to do it. He's very how do you say, generous with the information and in an easy to listen to way. So that's Walter Sorrells.
Cool. So I got like kind of two things. One is a video that I don't even know how to pronounce it. It's in another language, and it's a magazine, Pregusia. I don't know how to say it. I apologize, but I'll put a link to it. It's this 2.5 minute video about these guys hand binding books and doing like the gold leaf inlay on the spines, and it's just a really pretty video. You'll like it a lot. Past that, I haven't watched anything else on the channel. I don't know anything about where it came from or what it is or anything, but it's just a pretty video. So there's that. And then, have you guys ever watched the bad lip reading videos?
No. Really?
Oh, man. Okay, so it's a really funny channel. You need to watch them. They specifically put out 3 for the old Star Wars movies, and the first one's not really that funny, but the other 2 are really funny. But on this channel, they've done this a bunch of times. They do it for like presidential debates on both sides of the fence. They do it for the NFL lip readings are some of the funniest ones.
I've seen some of those.
Oh man, they do it for like, most movies, most big budget movies that come out and everything. But a couple of the new Star Wars ones that came out are really hilarious. So, and if you've never seen them, be sure to watch the NFL ones because they're funny too. They just mimic over what it would sound like if they were reading lips and then doing it in silly voices and stuff. They're really good. But
there's much trouble in the fuselage. That's for the people that are my age or older. There's much trouble in the fuselage. You guys are 2 babies. You don't know.
Are you going to tell us, or is it going to be a mystery?
That's from The Odd Couple. And Felix and Oscar were on the airplane, and one of them was afraid to fly, and he was lip reading the guys on the ground. And he says, "Klaus, there's much trouble with the fuselage." And he started panicking. That's what he lip read the guys on the ground crew saying to each other from his seat on the airplane. Nice. And he wanted to get off the plane. I think it was Felix was the one who was uptight to fly. So that's like a reference from the 1970s.
I did watch The Odd Couple in reruns.
I guess I did too. But there's much trouble. Klaus, there's much trouble in the fuselage.
Awesome.
Bad lip reading.
Well, bad lip reading. See, if we did a video of this podcast, which people ask us all the time, and we're not going to do, we don't want to do, but if we did, they could do funny lip reading over it, which might be worthwhile. Might be really bad as well, but anyway. Well, that'll probably do it for us this week. Merry Christmas to everybody that celebrates Christmas. That's
Merry Christmas.
I guess the day that this is coming out. So Merry Christmas. Yeah.
Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa.
Happy New Year. We'll be back before New Year. But.
Yes, we're gonna do fun year-end review, looking ahead show next week. Correct?
Yeah. That's it.
Let's do that. So if you guys got anything specific you want us to talk about in that, tweet it at us. And that's it for this week. See you guys next time.
Thank you.